Welcome back to another episode of Rant Said Poetry. I am Michael James Edding, your host. Today is Monday, October 16th, 2006. This is the second part of a two-part video blog on what it takes to be a poet and how to become a poet. As you may have surmised from our last episode, it takes more than wearing black and a funny black beret to be a poet. You do need to do some studying and some homework. Becoming familiar with famous works of poetry and famous poets is your best place to start. Your best place to start, as I mentioned before, is to have the right tools. Rhyming dictionaries, regular dictionary, rhyming dictionary dictionary of synonyms and antonyms. Those are your best tools. Next best tools that you're going to need, once you've gotten a variety of words and synonyms and antonyms that you can use in your poems, you need to understand certain technical dialogue. For instance, a stanza. Very basic. A stanza in poetry is akin to a paragraph in a story. Usually stanzas in poems are collections of thoughts, just like a paragraph is a collection of sentences, and they will more often than not be broken up by a space between them. So you'll have like a skipped line between stanzas in most forms. Another technical jargon that you might come across is a quatrain. A quatrain is a 4-line stanza. So, with that in mind, let's move on to forms. The best place to find out about the different types of forms of poetry is in poetry handbooks. Now, as I mentioned, there's a For Dummies book called Poetry for Dummies. I do not have this in my collection because I'm a little bit more advanced, but if you're starting, that might be a great book. Here are some poetry handbooks that I have. Poet's Handbook by Jerome Judson, or Judson Jerome. This is an old Poet's Handbook by Clement Wood. This book is almost 70 years old. Awakening the Poet Within by Anne Gasser. This is an excellent book. I use this one more than any of the other two, mainly because it's the most up-to-date in my collection. This will give you little formulas of how each form is constructed. And then basically you take your words and you plug them into the formulas, and that gives you your sonnet or your limerick or whatever form you're using. Now, not all poems have to have rhyme. It's more to it than roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. They don't all have to rhyme unless the form dictates it. You can have unrhymed poems, you can have blank verse. You can have prose, which is sort of like a poem, but it has more of a fluid motion to it. So, once you've started writing poetry, showing it to your friends and family is a good idea, but don't use it as your, wow, I'm a great poet now because they liked it platform. You need a springboard that's going to tell people if, give you the proper feedback from people to let you know if you really are cut out to be a poet. The best way to do that is to surround yourself with other poets who are reading their poems and have open mics. I'm very fortunate. I'm a member of the Lancaster Live Poetry Society. And I've been a member for over 10 years. We don't really have like formal membership meetings. We meet once a month at the Borders Books in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, right across the street from Park City. Some people give me a little bit of flack for telling people where I live and how to find me, but you'll find that on my MySpace page. You'll find that on my regular website. You'll find that on my YouTube stuff. I tell people where to find me. I'm not kind of afraid of some stalker or somebody trying to jump out and, you know, do me any kind of harm, because, well, I don't think anyone cares enough about me to want me dead. So, such is life. Okay. Another good venue that I go to is Sparky and Clark's. It's in York, Pennsylvania, off the corner of West Market Street and Newberry. That's the second and fourth Saturdays of the month at 7, or is it 7? It's been a while since I've been there, but that was where I had my first featured reading ever. And a featured reading is where you are the person who has been billed to read, and they're there to see you. And Lancaster Life Poetry Society, as I mentioned, at the Borders Books, they meet every second Monday of the month, except for December, and it's at 7:30. So if you'd like more information of either of those two, email me. I'll take care of you. Let's give some examples of forms now. A friend of mine once pointed out to me that he thought I had cheated in writing a poem because I used the same lines over and over again as part of my rhyming, and he didn't quite understand forms. And I had to explain to him that that's what the poem does. So let's start with a simple repeating line poem. It's called a triolet. Let's give you a actual definition from the book. The triolet is an 8-line poem with only 2 rhymes. The first line is repeated as the 4th line. The first 2 lines are the 7th and 8th line. So let's read a triolet that I had written from my book. Page 29, this end up. This poem is called Waiting at the Station. It's a triolet. I hear the moving train sounding off in the distance. As I stand in pouring rain, I hear the moving train, thinking only of my pain and my tortured existence. I hear the moving train sounding off in the distance. Okay. Fairly simple, and that explains the 6 lines that, no, sorry, 8 lines that comprise the triolet. More complicated repeating line poem, which is very popular, is the villanelle. Now, a villanelle is a little bit harder to describe, so back to the definitions. The villanelle is a 19-line poem composed of 5 stanzas and 1 quatrain. So that's 6 if you're counting. The repeats are: line 1 repeats in line 6, 12, and 18. Line 3 repeats in line 9, 15, and 19. So, for an example, I'm going to read a poem by another poet. This is by the most famous Welsh poet that I know of, Dylan Thomas. And this is probably the most famous villanelle that has ever been written. It is called Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, and it was written by Dylan Thomas when his father was dying. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learn too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. I can never do it. I can never do a job as good about telling the death of a parent or anything. My mother died of cancer 7 years ago, and I can't even come anywhere close to that. It's a very difficult subject to write on, especially if it's a close subject like a family member. I did write a villanelle. It's called Any Road. No. Did write a villanelle once. It's called Any Road. It's about life. On a path that leads to nowhere, with your compass that is broken, any road will get you there. You find you are soon missing token signs half hidden in the brush. With your compass that is broken, in your aimless headlong rush, you always fail to see signs half hidden in the brush. Your final destination is the ultimate mystery. Do you ever stop to wonder why you always fail to see how every point just seems to pass on by? When you don't know where you're going, do you ever stop to wonder why? There's no end that's ever showing on a path that leads to nowhere. When you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Well, that's all for tonight. Take care.